Hello.
Hello, everybody.
I know, Katie, you're not in mine. You need to sit back.
Oh, okay. We're doing this on two phones.
Yeah.
This is a bit weird.
And your head's cut off. There it is. Oh, it's back in.
Oh, that looks really weird.
Welcome to the screen.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
So you might know us already. We are Luke and Katie, and we're just friends that like to chit chat. And we were sat here last week or the week before,
Yeah.
trying to do something else.
Typical.
And getting very distracted, and came up with this idea as we were talking. We were like, people need to hear this.
They do. But actually, what was happening is you went, let's do it now. Let's go live.
I know. I was trying to pressure you a bit.
No, I'm not going live now. Give you a break.
Yeah, I'm a little more spontaneous in that respect. I'm
Yeah.
just like, I'll just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here we are.
Here we are. Is anyone watching? Oh,
I don't know.
I don't know.
Not yet. That's all right. They'll join us when they want, or they'll watch us on replay.
Yeah.
Anyway, here we are with coffee.
Got coffee. So what are we going to chat about then?
Half calf coffee.
Half calf. This is true. Why don't more companies make half calf coffee?
I didn't even know it's a thing till I met you.
Well, that's because I made it up.
Oh yeah.
Because-
Well, patent it.
Well, other companies do make it, but they're not like, you can't get them in Sainsbury's. So I decided to do it myself.
Nice. I'm enjoying the half calf.
Good. Half the fun.
Half the fun. Ooh, that's a great marketing campaign right there.
Exactly. Why hasn't anybody done it already?
There you go. So today we were discussing, do we have a topic? And then as we were making the half calf coffee,
Yeah.
we established that opinions is an interesting topic.
Yeah. Possibly a shaky
frictious
topic
one
as well.
at the start.
Let's just jump straight into the deep one.
Yeah.
Opinions.
So we thought we'd just chit chat about that because the world has a lot of them.
Yeah. Yeah, I was reading, because I'm always on Facebook. You can never get me off, unfortunately. I have a love-hate relationship. And there was, it's hard, isn't it?
You know, if I didn't have a business, I wouldn't have it. But the reality is I just sit there scrolling through it mindlessly, regardless of whether it's about business or not.
I know. Same. It's my transition activity. Oh, I need to go and do this really important thing. So I'll just stare at Facebook for 20 minutes. But yeah, I did actually find something useful. And it was, I can't even remember who it was, but it was about how one of the biggest problems we discuss, is that we should all allow each other to have different opinions. We should be able to hold different opinions about different things concurrently at the same time. You know, you can like someone, for example, but you might not like what they say about something. Or you like something that somebody has said, an opinion they have, but you don't really think much of them as a person. You know, we should be able to reconcile those things. What do you think?
Yeah, as in the opinion should be separate from how you feel about the person. Because I certainly have fallen guilty of this as well, but we get so wrapped up in our own opinions that we think that it is right, that it is the thing, and then you can't possibly be friends with somebody else or be in alignment with somebody else if you don't share that same opinion. Yeah. So if I can just, and we don't have to go down this rabbit hole, but just to give you an example of Facebook, Brexit was a big thing for me personally and my family, and that was when, around that time, I made the decision to unfriend everyone on Facebook. I completely blanked and cleared my Facebook personal account. My business one still remained. Yeah. Because I couldn't cope with the opinions that people that I know and love were sharing, and it gave me a different view on their core values. So that was interesting for me.
That is interesting.
But obviously it's been a long time since, the vote and the campaign now, and a few people have crept back on to my friend list.
Yeah, well.
But, I think that left me very bitter.
Yeah, I think so. Because it can be polarising, can't it?
I think polarising is a great word.
And that's the problem. And it's okay for everyone to have different opinions. But maybe that's the first time you'd experienced that sort of level of difference.
I think level's important. Yeah, I think, so for me it was quite a tricky time. But I think now, if we went through that whole process again, I think I've got a slightly different view or perspective of, actually I could choose not to get involved in conversations about it. I could choose to say, well, they believe that, but I don't believe that.
Yes, and that's okay.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's hard.
It is,
but
really
it's okay.
hard. It's really hard. Yeah. No, I'm totally with you there. I mean, I found it really difficult as well. It's really hard to sort of disassociate somebody's opinions from them as a person, but we have to do it every day, really, just to rub alongside people, don't we?
Just to exist.
Yeah, just to exist.
Because even us as friends will have opinions that we don't agree with each other, I'm sure. But,
yeah.
And I think with everyone, even your family members, your loved ones, your partners, your children, whatever. But I guess it's how big or how forceful is that opinion?
Yes.
And how much does it actually impact you?
Yeah, and can you let it go? And can you see the whole person for who they are? It's really hard, and I don't think I get it right all the time, but I think you can just be honest, can't you? And I try, especially on Facebook, you know, it's very easy to get sucked in, isn't it? To like,
I think
differently.
I'm such a keyboard warrior.
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, that's okay. I'm going to accept that about you, Luke.
It's the reason that I unfriended everyone.
Yeah. Oh, God. It's so easy, but then you sort of have to think, why am I doing this, I suppose? That's what I do. I tend to think, what do I need to get involved in this? Is it actually going to help me in any way?
One of the biggest things for me is to go, okay, so they hold this opinion. I wonder why. I wonder what their life has been like. I wonder, you know, what their core values were being raised. I wonder the people that they hang around. I wonder if they've experienced the rest of the world or not.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, where does this, in my perception, ignorance come from? Because I perceive it to be that way, but for them, they perceive it to be reality and the truth. There is no right or wrong, ultimately. So when I can look at them as a person and say, where have they come from? What's their reason? What's their lens? And I think lens is something that we kind of clocked that we might want to talk about.
Yeah.
That's really important to me to understand that. And I think that's why if this whole Brexit campaign thing came round again, I'd be a little more tolerant.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So you feel you've grown through it. It sort of changed you.
Through experience of, you know, being part of it. I guess it's once, you know, you've lived it once, and I guess if you don't learn any lessons, it'll just repeat as a cycle, right?
This is true. This is true. What is it? So there's the psychoanalyst Carl Jung said, if we don't make the unconscious conscious, it will direct our lives and we will call it fate.
That's really nice.
Interesting way of looking at it. Like, you know, if you don't actually accept what's hidden within you and actually look at it and analyse it, it will keep coming up time and time again. But yeah, that idea of lens, I think is really interesting. And I sometimes say to people about the football match analogy, you know, because every football match, there'll be a winner and there'll be a loser, but it's the same game, you know, so depending on which side of the fence you're sitting, you're going to view it completely differently. And that helps, actually. I find that helpful to sort of question my own reactions to things, because there's, you know, oh dear, I've touched my microphone, Luke.
Oh, that's all right.
Thinking about, you know, you looking at what is somebody else thinking about and what's their lens, then there's your lens as well. So trying to balance those two, like what have you come through? What have you lived through? What experiences have you had that make you the person you are? I think,
the lens thing is something I have had to learn time and time again. But people just we aren't raised the same. We aren't born the same. We don't have the same life experiences. We don't hang out with the same people. We don't have the same privileges, you know. So no two people's life are the same. Even twins.
No, very true.
Even twins will have their own separate life experiences, you know. So it's impossible for us all to have the same lens, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But we are all, even though we are all different, we are all the same in that we're all human. We're all on this planet at the same time. You know, we're united by that. So
I think there's a lot of pressure to be perfect as well, or to think that, well, if I believe it, it must be true, it must be right, because everything must be as it is, as it seems. You know, if I have a value, I must hold true to it because it's my value. But actually, it's okay to recognise, actually, I've changed my opinion on that. I don't have to stick to it. I don't need to be stubborn or perfect or, you know, rigid in anything. Like, it's okay to go, well, actually, I used to believe that. Now I believe something else. Or I used to believe that, and now I'm a little more flexible in other people's views of that same thing.
Yeah, that's the growth, isn't it?
That's the growth.
And it takes something to admit, actually, that I've changed my mind.
But,
that's okay.
Yeah, but we get stuck in it, don't we? We're like, well, I believed it for all these years, so it must be true.
I know. And also, what will people think of me? Now I've changed my mind about something.
It's that perfection thing. I will be flawed if I change my mind. I'll be flawed if I believe something different now. I'll look stupid.
No.
But not at all.
Quite the opposite, actually, I think. You know, if you're willing to have the courage to say, do you know what? I used to think about this in this way, and now I think it's a bit different. That takes guts to admit that. Mm-hmm. It really does.
Yeah. So, and I think the likes of you and I will have conversations about this stuff, and we're probably through our own journeys more open to admitting that, oh, maybe we think differently now, or maybe we've changed tact or whatever. But I think a lot of the world still stick in that perfection, that stubbornness aspect of, but it's who I am. It's like an identity almost to have an opinion or a view sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah, you can become aligned to it. And I get that, I get that. It takes a lot, I think, for some people to go through. Certainly I've been on my own journey. I was only thinking this morning, the first time I realised that I had agency, sort of choice in my own life, I think I was about 28, really. Until that point, I'd just been someone who went through life and stuff happened to me, and if I didn't like it, I just thought, oh, that seems really unfair, but never really figured out, do you know what, I could probably change things if I wanted to. Was
there something that triggered that? Because I'm similar to you in that respect, and was also in my 20s, but I had a trigger. So was there anything for you?
There was a book. So a friend of mine lent me a book, and I was going to talk about it on here one day. It's called The Art of Happiness by the Dalai Lama, and it's an series of interviews with him, done by a psychologist. And there was something in that book, I think it just came at the right time. It's always about timing, isn't it? It came at the right time. But there was also the overarching message to me was that everyone's trying to avoid suffering in some way. And that sort of guides our behaviour, really, And it made me think at that time in my life, I was having a few struggles at work, and I was thinking, where is the person I'm struggling with? Where are they trying to avoid suffering? I just sort of looked at it with that lens and thought, oh, okay, I can see it now.
Trying to look at that other person's perspective
stepping into their shoes a bit more. And so, from that point, I just sort of thought, okay, I could possibly, if I change my behaviours here and there, then actually I don't need to take on their stress or whatever it was that I was taking on. It was the first time I'd ever realised that I could change me as a person.
We're ultimately only responsible for ourselves, although we spend a lot of our conditioning thinking that we're responsible for everything else, and that we're in control of, or should be in control of, other people, the way they think, feel, what they do, how they treat us, etc. But actually we've got no control of any of that.
No, it's just us.
I think we can only control our reactions to it, I guess, or our tolerance level towards it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, how we show up, as you might say. And our behaviours and our actions and where we choose to be. But it was really interesting, that book. That was the moment for me. What was your thing that happened to you? Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, mine was slightly bigger.
Okay. Mine's a book.
Well, I mean, it was the diagnosis and subsequent death of my dad, who worked 90-hour weeks to get to his retirement and then never made his retirement. And for me, I was like, what the F am I doing?
Yeah.
What am I doing? I'm in a job that I think that I want because I should want it, but actually I'm completely miserable. I'm in a destructive relationship that I think I should have, but I'm completely miserable. And, I just reevaluated everything, and I was like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Like, I need to, this is how life should be, but how life should, we're just talking about air quotes, but how life should be, it ain't working for me.
No, that's a big one though, Luke.
Yeah, so I just got really fearless, and I was like, F it, I'm just
gonna... Yeah, JFDI.
JFDI, just effing do it. We talk about, I've often talked about this, we were talking about this the other day, we need a stamper that says JFDI, and just, anytime you want to just effing do it. You
Yeah.
just stamp your forehead and off you go. But that was very much my attitude from that moment. I was like, why am I doing this? Like, life tells me I should. This is what I've been conditioned to do, but I'm so miserable.
Yeah.
And I'm tolerating it because that's what I thought I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I explored a lot of reading. So, you know, and then you get more sparks of inspiration from what you learn, what you study, how you grow.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I guess the rest is kind of history. I've just become a bit reckless.
Reckless. That's not what I'd use to describe you.
But I'm still, you know, when I think about that, though, I'm still sat here. I have a roof over my head. I've got food to eat. I've got nice things. We still go on holidays. We've got our children want for nothing. And I'm like, okay, so I don't have a corporate career and a huge salary, but so
no, exactly.
I'm right now. It's like 11 o'clock on a Monday, and I'm not in an office.
Yeah.
Like,
cheers to that. Not being in the office. No, it's just really interesting you should say that, actually, because I was only talking to somebody this weekend. This idea of security and job security, I feel it's a bit of an illusion because you feel you're in a job and everything's fine and you just assume I'm going to go there tomorrow and then I'll go there the day after that and I'll go there the day after that. But, you know, it's hopeful that that's going to happen, but it's not guaranteed. You know, I mean, my husband was made redundant a couple of times early on in his 20s. And so, you know, he had a secure job, but then the company changed structure and
wasn't secure anymore.
It wasn't secure anymore. Yeah. So, you know, when that happens to you, you suddenly realise, oh my God, there is no such thing as security. Nothing is guaranteed. So actually, you are no more or less secure than you were before, but now you're on your terms, which is really exciting. Yeah. So actually, that's really cool. But I'm sorry it had to happen that way.
But then it happens that way for a reason, right? If that hadn't have happened, where would I be? When would I have had this moment of, oh, I don't need to live like this? And I certainly find, I don't know if you've experienced this, but a lot of my clients come to me normally in their 50s or their late 50s, and often that's, not all of them, but a lot, and I think it's quite a high percentage, and I believe it's because for a lot of people, and perhaps I'm stereotyping here a little, but perhaps also more so women, because most of my clients are women, they have a purpose, a conditioned purpose up to a point. So whether that's parenting or having a career or whatever, you know, life has conditioned a lot of people to have a purpose up to a certain point. And then, for example, when your children move out, it's like, okay, well, now what's my purpose? And that's often a point of reevaluation for people, as an example, not exclusively. But it's often a point for reevaluation, and I think that's when people then start to open their minds and say, there must be more. Like, you know, I've, you know, got to middle-aged, and then that, I suppose, is the peak, and then people say it's all downhill from here. But, you know, and that's a belief or a saying that we use, but actually, like, people often get to that point, that peak, and then they go, there has to be more. Yeah. Like, I haven't lived yet, or I haven't achieved what I want yet, or my life, I want the second half of my life to look different to the first half of my life. Yeah. You know, so I think that there's this change point naturally that comes for people if something doesn't prompt them before. Yes, agreed. Yeah, I would say so. I think, you know, with coaching as well, when people are ready to do it, to engage in the process, it's because they're ready to explore what more, you know, what else, what more. This can't be it, right? Yeah. I want more, and I want, I know, the beautiful thing is they know. And that's what I love about coaching is, you know, people, they know there's more. They know they can do it. There's almost an element of permission, maybe, sort of seeing someone else just allow you to be you, gives you the ability to go and do it. You know what I mean? And that's, that's big. And I think it happens to an awful lot of people at this stage in life. I do, and I now believe, because, you know, life is different and there are less expectations for some of the younger generations. I think there's a lot more freedom, societal freedom. I think people are discovering that there can be more younger and younger now. Yes, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a member of my family, I won't mention them by name. They've got married and they've quit their jobs and they are currently working their way around the world.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. It's so inspiring because where have they been? They've been to South America. They're going through Africa at the moment. It's just so inspiring. You know, there is more than one way to live a life.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
the message I got from that. There really is more than one way to live a life. It doesn't have to be anything like we think it should in our sort of little bubbles that we live in. There's just so many different ways to do it.
So talking lenses, what do you think it is societally that has made our lens think that we have to do it one way?
That's a very good question.
I mean,
is it, and I don't know if I know the answer, is it lack of experience and not sort of seeing other ways of doing it? We're not modelled other ways of doing it, sort of in the school system and in, you know, go and get your degree if that's what you want to do, or get some sort of qualification and then go and get a desk job maybe. I don't know. Is it that's what's modelled to you and you sort of do that?
Yeah, I think modelled is a great word. My view was going to be, and similar, that I think the education system doesn't gear us towards freedom. And then, of course, that depends on each individual teacher or the school's ethos or whatever. But I think generically, and particularly probably from our generations, the education system was geared towards grading.
Yeah, academic grades.
Yeah. And I remember at my school, 50% of the year half were called achievement, they were called the A band. And then the other 50% of the year half were called endeavour, with the E band, right? And effectively, they gave it fancy titles, but effectively what this means is that 50% of the year half couldn't get a grade above a C. They would sit in all foundation papers. Regardless if they excelled in one subject or not, they would sit all foundation papers. And then the other half, which I was in, we sat all higher papers, regardless of whether we were good or bad at a subject. And so 50% of our school half were told, you've got no hope.
Wow.
And how much does that influence their lens, their beliefs about themselves, the way that they view their world, their abilities to succeed? And it was all geared towards academic potential. And then a select few of us were plucked out of school and taken on a school trip to a university, and we spent a week living in halls at a uni to encourage us to go to university. But only a select few. And then again, so we left school, a select few, with a belief that we could go to uni, that we could achieve something, that we could be academic, that we could have careers. And then like 90% of the rest of the school year were like, you're on your own.
Wow. Gosh.
So, and I think when you look at, actually there was a statistic and like an article about the most impoverished areas in the UK and academic ability and people that went on to university in these areas. And one of those studies was based on the school year that we graduated and based on our particular school and the catchment within 1 mile of that school. And it was something like, and it was, the whole article was about the low numbers of students going to university. And it was basically based on our school year. And I found it really interesting because I think something like less than 10 of us out of our school year went to university, and we were in what was considered a deprived school. And then they use that statistic and they slam it all over media, effectively. And then what do the people that were in my school year that didn't have those luxuries, that didn't get invited to those things that weren't considered to be academic, how would they feel reading that? How does that impact their whole life? You know, how does that affect their potential? And I just don't feel that our school system, when I was at school, supported anybody that was anything other than academic.
Gosh, there is so much to unpack in that.
I know, it's big,
there?
right?
It's like, first of all, how can you label the kids at that age?
Yeah.
At any age, but particularly, how can you stream them into two sets? Either you're good or you're not, is what they're saying.
That's exactly what they said,
yeah. And then give the ones that are good support. Oh God, it's so toxic.
And even the irony is, here I am as one of those people with potential. I didn't actually graduate uni. I've bowed out in my last year. I'm not working in the corporate world like they were hoping for me.
Yeah.
And actually, what did it do? It probably postponed the inevitable for me for a few years and stuck me in a corporate job that I didn't want.
Did it send you down the wrong path, potentially?
Yeah, totally.
But then you weren't, again, this is the challenge, you're not encouraged to listen to what you really want and to figure out what you really want. I was always told, bless them, my parents always said you can be anything you want to be, but that was actually unhelpful to me because I was like, but there are so many things I don't know what I want to do. But I was never encouraged just to try stuff, because I think you look at people who are actually, I guess you would class as successful, air quotes again, people like Steve Jobs, and I read a bit of his autobiography. He dropped out of everything and he tried loads of things. And just went with where his interest pulled him. And then, decades later, Apple is just this monolithic. I mean, that's one model of success. Again, talking about how to live a life. There's more than one way to live a life. But if you're going to define it by those measures, he used all the different resources and all the opportunities he had, and it all came together beautifully, and it worked really well for him. But he didn't fit into a mould, and he wasn't, he didn't listen, I'm assuming, to judgments.
I think a lot of the success stories that get publicated or that you read about are genuinely based on people who didn't follow the linear path.
Yeah.
The majority of them, I would say.
It's interesting because there's another book that I've read. Have you read Mindset by Carol Dweck? It's a really good book. She does a really good TED talk, actually, talking about different mindsets and how that affects your decisions in life. And she talks about a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. And I think there is a risk, this is just my opinion, talking of opinions today, there is a risk that if you go into a very structured, rigid, academic-based system that sort of wants to get you along the treadmill, you're going to end up thinking that's A, that's the way to do things, B, this is who I am, and C, this is the only way to live my life. When actually the growth mindset encourages failure. Failure is reframed as just giving things a go,
Failure is far better than getting an A in an exam.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, exactly. But look at, there's people whose job is to be a professional failure, like a scientist or an engineer. You have to constantly fail.
It's all based on that, isn't it?
Yeah. I have a friend who's an engineer, and he says his job is to professionally break things. He's got to push them so far until they break. So that's failure, and that's how you learn. So.
We're not taught that, though, are we? Certainly in the education system from our time, we weren't taught that failure was okay. No,
I never felt it was okay. I'm not sure what was said about it. I can't remember now, but I certainly think about how I feel about it or felt at the time. I always wanted to be perfect at things. And because I was fairly academic, there was that pressure, I must keep doing it, because if I don't, then I'm not, I'm failing.
I remember genuinely believing that if I got a detention, it would go on my permanent record. I was like, what even is a permanent record for a start?
Criminal record.
I have no idea what I thought it was. But I genuinely believed that, and I was so good because I thought if I get detention, I can never have a career, and I'm the only academic person in my family, so there's a lot of... Not that I was ever pressured from my family, to be fair, but I was the only academic one, so I felt a pressure.
Oh, bless you.
And so I was so good and I was so rigid, and it's no wonder I went and had a career in human resources where I got to control people with rules.
Oh, there we go. Right? It's all coming out now.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, so were you a good boy?
Yeah, I was so good.
Did anyone ever say, oh, good boy, Luke, when you were growing up?
Probably.
Yeah.
I'm terrible with that. My kids, it's so hard to get out of that habit because it's so habitual from... I don't know if you found this with parenting. You think you get over some things. Yeah. And then when you start parenting, you just turn into your parents.
Oh, God. I
you
see
catch
it.
yourself, don't you?
All the time. I hear it, and I'm so terrified of doing that. But I do try with the kids to say things like, well done, and good for you. Yeah. And, language that's very much focused on... you're trying for yourself rather than me getting you to do it and be a good girl or a good boy or whatever. That's hard. My first words were good girl.
Really? Wow.
Typical me. So I'm a linguist. That's my sort of background. And yeah, 2 words, not 1 for a start. Good girl. But yeah, first words. How many times must I have heard that?
Yeah.
To have repeated it back?
Do you know what? My youngest daughter, we're potty training. And so if she sees me use the toilet, she says, "Good girl, Daddy."
Oh, good girl. Well done. Yeah, that's fantastic. Did she give you a sticker?
No, we don't do the sticker thing, but yeah.
Okay.
But it's quite funny. And actually, I'm trying to be conscious of not doing it, but obviously I must.
Yeah.
But equally, it's not just me. You know, when she goes to the childminder, when my other daughter's at school, they use that language all the time.
Yeah.
But again, it's opinion, right? So some people will say it's a really positive form of praise, and other people will say, "Oh, actually, it's doing a lot of damage." So,
they're so little though, aren't they? And the thing is, you just have to do the best that you can.
Sometimes
and
you just got to get through the day.
But you can't change the environment. This is the environment they're growing up in.
Yeah.
And they're going to have to learn to navigate it. So I guess all you can do is give them the tools at some point when you feel they're ready. But God, it's hard work, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's really
the funny
hard
thing
work.
is, my eldest has now got really short hair, and she naturally gravitates towards things like dinosaurs, or she just wants to wear shorts and t-shirt all the time, things like that. So actually, she gets called good boy all the time now.
Oh,
not by us, but just strangers think that she's a boy all the time. So I just find that amusing in itself, because we're not fussed on stuff like that, in terms of it's not a big deal, in terms of gender and stuff, not a big deal for us. It's just funny now, the irony of that good girl kind of complex, and now she's hearing good boy, and she's like,
is she confused?
She's just like, I'm a girl. It's just funny, but it kind of comes around to identity, doesn't it? I mean, but anyway, that's a whole nother tangent.
I think that's another day, isn't it?
Yeah. But it's just interesting. All of this stuff that creates our lens.
It does. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think as long as you recognise that is just your lens.
Yeah.
And there's more than one way to look at something. That's what I try to do anyway. Yeah. Makes you a bit more tolerant.
If in doubt, unfriend them all.
Well, there is that. I'm not sure I'm going to take a leaf out of that one.
You're not that cutthroat, no?
No, well, no, I have had a little edit occasionally, but that was, well, good for you, Luke.
Well, as I said, that was like, however long ago that campaign was, and I think that I have tried to change my view on the way that I deal with things like that now. Yeah. So hopefully, we'll see. But hopefully that whole situation won't ever happen again. So
yes, well,
I won't need
once
to
in a
worry
generation.
about that.
Yeah, my goodness.
Oh.
How are we doing?
Well, I think my coffee's empty.
Mine's cold, so I'm going to go and get another one, I think. Do you want another one? And we'll call it a day.
So, thank you, everybody. If there's been some people watching, which has been wonderful, and of course the replay is available, what we would like to do is hand over the topic to you guys. So this week we decided on a topic as it's the first one, and we will aim to do this every week, not necessarily on a Monday. It depends on our schedule and availability, but we'll try and aim to do it once a week. And we would like to know from you what topic you would like us to discuss. So either comment on this or ping us a message, and then hopefully we'll have a new topic for you next week.
Yeah, it's been fun. Looking
forward
forward
to it.
It's been
really fun. I know. All right, take care, everybody.
Bye.
Have a nice day.
See you later.